This is the Harrison maintaining power system as invented by him. It's really quite difficult to film and show it clearly, so I've demounted everything and put it on the front plate so you can see the components a little bit more clearly without the back plate in the way. And then I'll film it all together. The mechanism has a pivot at the top here that is of a particular length that allows this lever to be approximately level with the top or the bottom, and as it moves it obviously pivots and as it moves backwards when you trigger it, its position changes, but it's broadly in parallel with the top or the bottom. Now the power when the clock's running is moving the wheel in this direction, and when you wind the clock up it removes the power from this wheel, and that would cause the escape wheel possibly to trigger the pallets and let this whiz round and tear up the faces of the pallets on the Grasshopper escapement, which are very fragile. So he invented this system of keeping power on when you're winding up, and it has to be manually triggered, and it consists of a lead weight which powers everything. And what you do is you move this lever up manually until you're in that position there, and then this pushes round until this comes off, and when it comes up to the end and it's sitting in the notch at the end here, then this and that misses the pins here so that the clock is free to rotate in normal way. So the action gathers up however many pins you allow for the movement, and then that moves round until that pin gathers up the tail. Very simple. The shape of this is such that that is just slightly more than the gap between these, but you want it to be able to gather up at that point and at that point, but you don't want it to gather up any more than that. So it's probably the most it can gather up is 3 pins, which is what I've aimed for here, and I've just lost a little bit of the round on the end here as I've been filing the fitting. So that's how this works, and I'll put everything together and show it assembled, and I've filmed it from various angles. It is very difficult to show adequately, but I don't know that this is actually featured in a properly described way in any video or film that I've seen, or photographs or drawings even. So I had luckily some photographs of bits that someone else had made, which was a great help to me, and I was able to understand what its action was and how it worked. So I'll screw this all together now and show you it running. There's a lever which appears here, which, when you look at the dial plate, is approximately here, just to the right of the top right spandrel, and that lever is lifted up to trigger the maintaining power. The maintaining power is actually quite simple, but like with all things on this clock, it's a little difficult to show. It consists of the wheel below the escape wheel here having a series of pins which are engaged upon by a pivoted lever at the bottom, which is underneath here, and it sits at rest on a pin that sticks out of the front face here. So after it's been triggered, it doesn't move any further in this direction, and because it's sitting on a step in the pivoted lever. And the way this works is that manually at each winding up, this is lifted up and it goes down like that and turns the escape wheel, despite the fact that there's then no power to the escape wheel. The only thing is that when you wind the clock, you have to make sure to remember to always engage the maintaining power. So it's a simple little device. And what I'll do is I'll film this from a few different angles just so that you can get a better look at it. I'll try and change the lighting a bit as well. Now when this maintaining power weight drops down to the lowest point, it then allows the wheel to revolve without any interference from the lever. It's completely free of the pivoted lever at the bottom. So it's quite a simple, clever little device. Just try one or two different angles so you can see it better. Now the thing to realise is that, of course, the maintaining power only really needs to last for about a minute, and a minute is half a revolution of the escape wheel, so that's not actually too much of a problem, and it's not too much of a problem. So this lever is just lifted up and the weight allows it to drop down. And this is all at the moment just rigged up temporarily just to prove that everything worked before I then went ahead and made it all up in brass and Again, that's just to show that the train is totally disconnected from the lever down here once it's reached its furthest extent. Now I believe Harrison has made an automatic version of this that appeared later in his clocks, after 1727, and I guess other people also brought out maintaining power.